Look at this delicious dish. This is chili con carne. Folks, we're going to get into making a beautiful chili dish. This uses no tomatoes. It's strictly chilies and beef and delicious. Today I'm going to be making chili con carne. I have had several requests on my channel over the years to please put forth a recipe for chili con carne. Something that is authentic, something that is south of the border, something that isn't so Americanized. Alright, so what we're going to do today is I'm going to give you a chili con carne recipe. This recipe doesn't use any tomato. It's about chilies and about meat. That's what the name is, chili, like you know, chilies, chili con carne, with meat. All right, now the way we produce the meat this time, it's not going to be ground. We're going to be using a cut steak is what we're going to be doing. And so it's going to have a fabulous texture to it. It's going to have a lot of flavor to it because I'm going to be putting in several different chilies. We're going to be using about 4 different chili flavors, and they're going to come through in a remarkable and delicious way. This is a fantastic recipe, and it was put together with a couple of different concepts in mind. Number one, I wanted to, of course, put forth a good chili con carne recipe that's very authentic and very true to its name. I also wanted to put out a recipe that uses the chili paste, because again, we've had recent requests for do more recipes using your chili paste. So this is one of those recipes, and it's a perfect recipe for it. You make a good quality chili paste, which is easy to do, and once that's done, what you can produce with it when it comes to a chili dish is unbelievable. So I'm going to show you a fantastic recipe today. I've got some magnificent ingredients here, and we're going to get busy making the best tasting chili con carne you're going to ever put in your mouth. Come take a look at this. The ingredients that we're going to be using today are as follows. I've got some beautiful beef over here. This is sirloin. You can use other cuts for this, but for this one, this is what I had. It was the right size, the right amount of fat, and I thought, okay, this is perfect for this dish, so I'm going to use the sirloin. I also have some poblanos and some beef broth. I have an onion, garlic, and the chilies that I'm going to be using for this, other than the poblano, will be pasilla chilies, this long dark one here, chipotle chilies, which is this one, guajillo chilies, which is this guy here. Let me get a better looking one. There we go. Guajillo chilies are beautiful. Also I have some cumin, salt, there is some lime juice. These 2 chilies are out, so I can tell you about these others. This is not a chili that has its own bush. There's no such thing as a chipotle bush, ladies and gentlemen. A chipotle chili is a jalapeno that has been smoked and then dried, okay? What happens is they first allow the jalapeno to ripen. It turns red. Then they smoke it. Then they dry it out, and you get this lovely little darling right here. That is a chipotle, okay? And it's delicious. I'm not going to be putting these in this chili, but you can if you want. The chipotle is going to be used with the paste. Now it's the same thing on this one. I have these chilaca chilies out, and I got these out because I wanted to show you that the pasilla chili is a dried chilaca. When this one is turned ripe and then they allow it to dry, it becomes this chili here. We call it a pasilla. P-A-S-I-L-L-A, pasilla. And the pasilla chili is one that is a beautiful, bold, almost woody tone to it without having been smoked. It just has its own natural, deep flavor that way. The guajillo has a light, kind of a fruity flavor to it. As far as chilies go, it's a great one for making those enchilada sauces. So that's really what you're seeing a lot of times in an enchilada sauce. I have seen the word pasilla misused so many times, and that's the reason I taught this lesson I've seen the word pasilla used in place of the word chili. And so I see Pasilla, Colorado, or Pasilla, California. And what they're trying to say there is actually Chili, Colorado, Chili, California, because it's an Anaheim chili from Colorado or from California that's been dried, and that's what makes those chilies. So that's the confusion there, and there's some of your solution to the naming. All right, we're going to be using all of this to make a beautiful chili. Now let's get busy with it. In order to get my chili paste made, I have to hydrate my chilies, and that means splitting them open. Now some of them that are real long like this are kind of hard to do, and you might be better off just to half them, but I like to open them up lengthwise just like that, and that way the water gets all the way through the inside of the chili. Okay? So I'm going to do all of them the same way. Now if you want, you don't have to be pretty about the smaller ones. Just take it and split them right in half, okay? Like so. Anytime you can do it that way, it really works out the best. Be careful when you're cutting these things open. They are rather tough, especially the chipotles. They have a tough skin that was developed during that smoking process. If you'll notice, some of them, like I said, I'll just split the whole thing in half. Others, I kind of split it from the stem down. Works either way. Now the hot water is on top of them. Ouch, it's a little bit warm. About 45 minutes into this soaking, take all of the chilies and kind of rotate them, because all of these parts that are floating above the water are not going to hydrate, and they'll stay hard, and they won't produce good chili. So you want to get it all kind of turned at some point so that all of the chilies hydrate at the same rate. This takes about 2 hours. Be patient with it, and it's going to give you a good quality product. I'm going to go ahead and get the skin removed from my poblanos. And I do this just by placing them directly on the heat. In a moment you'll hear the skin popping, and what that's doing is just blistering the skin and causing it to crackle, and this will also scorch it. Doesn't hurt a thing. Now if you don't have gas burners, I understand, try doing this in the oven. Put them under your broiler, give them about 15 minutes, turn them halfway through, and then put them in a plastic bag. Let them stay in that plastic bag until they've cooled, and that will sweat the skin loose on the chili. You can peel it off very easily after that. This method works, that method works, so just pick which works best for you and go with that. It's easy. This isn't cheating, it's just working smart in the kitchen. It's also a good way to get the areas that are hard to get. Once you have those scorched, just go ahead and get them washed. And I wanted to show you one of these real quick to give you an idea of how quickly that you can do this if you're, pressed for time or anything like that. It's not something that takes a long time. Push your finger into the side, pull down. Pull back at the crown all the way around, just like so. Now, snap the crown up. Don't pull down like that. There you go. The whole thing is opened up, de-seeded, and ready to go. So all I have to do now is slice it, and we're going to have this ready for our chili con carne. It's time to go ahead and process our vegetables. I need to cut up my onion. I want to dice it. Also, I need to dice my chilies. Now what you've seen me do there already, I've just removed the stem end of my onion. And right now I'm removing that outer papery husk. Sometimes the layer right underneath that, like this one, is a bit too thin, and this one is, so I'm going to remove it. Even though it may have some good areas, it won't cook up right. Now that we have the skin removed from these, the method I'm going to show you how to dice this is simple enough, but you need to know when holding that knife, pinch the blade, and that keeps that blade from rolling on you. If you're holding it back here, it can roll It's quite dangerous that way because then you have things facing the wrong way. So pinch the blade so that doesn't happen. And the next thing you need to know is keep these fingers always turned under with the thumb behind, okay? So you don't hurt yourself. Now on an onion like this, in this case, we're going to make a first cut and we need to make it away from us. So if you're right-handed, this way, and if you're left-handed, it goes this way. All right? I want to come up about the width of my dice on the height of the onion. Put your fingers together on top and cut away from you with that blade level. Now at this point that blade a lot of time binds up on the onion. Don't force it, don't try to fight it. Just twist the knife, okay? Give it a little air. You hear that? See that? How easy that was? So let's do it again. It binds a little, air, gave it some air, and it's ready to finish cutting. Now we're going to do both pieces that same way. Gently, carefully, take your time. Now making cuts straight down inside of that top side cut at the width you want your dice to be. If this looks confusing or like it's taking too much, it really isn't, and it produces perfect dice. You're about to see what I mean. There we go. Now, at the width of your dice again, pull your knife back, keeping the fingers under and thumb behind, and perfect dice we get. This is the best way I can teach to get uniform, perfect dice onion each and every time. Your poblanos, simple dicing on these. To make this easy, it doesn't like to lay flat. Just cut it in half, and that will relax it a little bit. It makes cutting this much easier now. I want to cut some strips about 3/8 of an inch to a 1/2 inch wide. So do that on the length of your poblanos, and then we're going to cut dice at about the same width. There we go. Was that easy or what? It's time we get on with cutting the meat. This is already in a couple of pieces. What I want to do here is to make slices about 1/8 of an inch wide. So as you can see there, it's a fairly narrow slice. And then on these slices, I'm going to simply cross cut them like so. And what this is going to end up giving me are little pieces of meat that maintain better meat texture than you would get if you were going to go with a ground beef. So you see more of the meat fiber there, and it gives you better texture in this dish. Do all of your meat this exact same way. So this is one you don't have to have a meat grinder or anything like that. Just get your knife and go at it. All right. As we can see, a neat way to prep that meat. And again, the pieces aren't tiny, they're a good size. Every once in a while you get a bigger piece like that, and most of them are a bit smaller, but they all have a right mouth feel once it's cooked up. Most of the prep work is done. I'm going to take these and turn them. This hot water is now warm. So it's just a matter of waiting for these to finish hydrating. All of my meat is cut. It's ready to go. The vegetables are cut. They're ready to go. Now it's just a matter of waiting on our chilies. Folks, we're getting ready to use our food mill. We're going to mill these chilies into a paste. The nice thing about doing this technique is it very quickly separates the pulp on the inside of the skin of a chili from the skin and the seeds. You won't get any of that product in the paste. You'll only get the pulp. All right, and it does a beautiful job. These things are very simple. If you've never had one, definitely consider getting one. They run about $20 to $40 depending on your brand, and they all work pretty much the same way. These come, looks like a large funnel, or maybe a bowl with the bottom open. And there is this right here. This is the sieve. This one's the one with the small holes. All right, and these will allow food to pass through, but only a limited way. Also, the ones that are larger, they have medium holes and large holes, make good mashed potato or applesauce. You can do a lot of neat things with a food mill. And the products that they produce are very smooth and clean. The grate just pops in there. It looks like they go in backwards. It looks like it's put in there backward, but that's the way it goes. It needs to be domed up. The spike on this just goes in the center hole. When you're putting one of these together, make sure the open side of the paddle faces the last clip that you install. This clip right here, if the paddle is in this position over here, it will dent that sieve on the bottom. You have to push down too hard. So if you pull your paddle over to the open side, it goes into place quickly, just like that. Now we need to put this on a pan and start milling these chilies to make a beautiful chili paste. This is a messy game, so you want to have a towel under where you're working. Go ahead and get your food mill on a pan, and that way it'll catch what you're milling. You can put it on a bowl also. Take your chilies and just pull the stem off of them. Now this part up here can still be used. Take your stem, just dispose of it, and the chili, toss it right down. You can tear it like I'm doing here, and toss it into your food mill. Now, all of these seeds, let me get this stem off of here. The seeds in this, I don't worry about. I just throw them in the food mill. The food mill will keep the seeds from passing through it. And these chipotles are quite tough on the skin, so they'll fight you a little bit sometimes. On this one, you can see the red color on the inside of it, but often the chipotles look much darker than that. I've now removed all of the chilies from the water and taken the stems off of the top. When it comes to the milling itself, it's very simple. Just crank the paddle. Every once in a while you might go backwards a turn, and you'll see why in a little bit. It just kind of clears off that lower plate. And then as you're milling, occasionally use a rubber spatula to push things back down in there. So keep one of those handy. Don't be afraid thinking this is going to take a long time. I doubt that I'll be milling for more than 4 minutes. Okay, so this usually goes very, very quickly. So just go at it and you'll see how quick it goes. You can see already, and it's only been less than a minute, that I'm stripping these chili skins down very quickly. Well now folks, we are pretty much at the end of this. You can see how the food mill has now just turned up a bunch of pretty much stripped out skins. And let's take a look underneath here and see what the paste looks like. Okay, I went ahead and rinsed off my spatula. I didn't want to get any skins on my paste. Underneath here, I have this elegant, gorgeous, absolutely perfect chili paste. All right. Oh, look at that. That is going to make such a good tasting chili con carne. There we go. There's a little of the water that came through. And watch this. I'm just going to mix that water in. Look at the quality of our chili paste, folks. This is a very high-grade product. You cannot get this quality of paste by doing the blender and strainer method. If you do the food mill, you cut out all that extra work. It narrows the job down and you get a far superior product. This is what we're using instead of tomato paste as our thickener and base for this chili con carne. After all, it's about chilies and meat, and this is chilies right there, 3 different ones. I've gone ahead and put my onion into my meat, and I have this heating over a medium-high heat. I'm going to keep doing this until it starts to sizzle a little bit and gives me a bit of noise. Once that happens, I'll put a lid on it, and we're going to cook the onion and meat together until the meat just starts to turn brown. At that point, we're going to add the poblano, stir it in, and get on through the next step. I did add some olive oil to help loosen these ingredients up as they begin cooking. There we go, releasing steam, a little bit of sizzle. And I'm starting to get some browning on there. Perfect. Now, it's time to go ahead and just cover this. We're going to let that sweat for a few minutes. Check it every 2 to 4 minutes. That way you don't get any burning on the bottom. And at this point, set your temperature at a medium. If you'll notice, we have it cooked most of the way through. There's a little bit of pink here and there, but the meat has turned brown. So let's go ahead and put those chilies in there. Now, at this point, I'm going to continue sweating this together. All right, I'm going to continue sweating the vegetables and the meat. And when the onions go from this white looking color to a translucent and they're hard to see in the mixture, then I will know it's time to add my other ingredients. That usually takes anywhere from 10 minutes to 20, just depending on the onion, altitude, the day of the week, you know, that kind of stuff. So just let it cook, guys, and cover it. Cook it at medium heat and be patient. It has been about 20 minutes of total sweat time now. The onions have cooked down. They've cooked down to the point where they're very translucent. They are not readily apparent in the meat. You have to kind of look in there, then you'll see them. They don't stand out as a white onion anymore. So now what I want to do is get the rest of my ingredients in here. I'm going to start with that beautiful chili paste. I'm going to take every bit of it and put it right down on top. There we go. It's always nice to get a good view on things. Let's pour in our beef broth. Oh yes. I want to go ahead and get my lime juice in there. My salt, that's about a teaspoon of salt. And we're going to want roughly a half a teaspoon of cumin. So here we go. That's a little more than a half, isn't it? It's about 3/4. It's closer to a half. There we go. My garlic, I want to take it, cut the tops off of it, and we'll toss it on in. I like to remove that little scab. Get rid of those. All you have to do really is to crush this. If you wish to chop it a little also, you can do that. It's strictly up to you. I like to reduce the pieces. There we go. Right down in there. All I need to do now is get this stirred together. I'm just going to start working that paste, getting it thinned, and then working it outward. There we go. Isn't that nice? Excellent. So now we have a beautiful dish coming about. I need to give this plenty of time to simmer. This is going to be about anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour and a half. It just seems to develop better character, better flavor, the longer you simmer it. So folks, let's do that. Let's cook down some of the moisture so it thickens up a bit. And we're going to have the most magnificent chili con carne. Look how that is starting. I can tell you this. This already smells good. All of the flavors are just right. The flavor profile is beautiful. It's cooking up the right way. Now that it has come to a simmer, as you've just seen, I'm going to lower the heat to low. I'm going to cover this. I want to let it cook for about an hour to an hour and a half. Stir this every 10 to 15 minutes. Now folks, today for the quantities of everything I used, that was 1 3/4 pound of sirloin steak. This recipe works best with 1 1/2 to 2 pounds. If you want it a little beefier, go towards that 2 pound side, and it gives you a nice and meaty chili, of course. And down here we have the rest of our goodies. Over here I had some poblanos. That was 3 large poblano chilies. I also used 1 medium white onion. And back there in the back, that is 2 cups of beef broth. We used 4 cloves of garlic, a 1/2 teaspoon of cumin, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1/4 cup of lime juice, and on these chilies, that's 50 grams of pasilla chilies, 50 grams of chipotle chilies, and 50 grams of the guajillo chilies. And all that gives you a delicious recipe that is very memorable. Now let's take a look at that. There's nothing like having some toppings to go on your chili, and one of the things I like is onion. Now you can use chopped green onion or red onion, white, yellow, whatever. I'm going to use a shallot. That works good too. I just happened to have them around and I figured, what the heck, I'm going to use them. So here we go. There we go, folks. A little slivered shallot. What a wonderful thing to go on top. Oh, look at this. That chili con carne is finished. Isn't that gorgeous? The vegetables, you can hardly see them. They're there, but they just don't jump out at you. Oh, I'll tell you what, it is this red like brown color that is just absolutely phenomenally beautiful. Can't wait to enjoy this. Everybody likes their chili dressed a little different. Now some folks like to have sour cream on there, and I have a little bit of that out here. So if you like sour cream on yours, just go ahead and put a little dollop right up on there. Go. If you're one of those that likes a little cheese on there, then go ahead, put a little cheese up on there. And of course, I like a little onion on mine, or in this case, we've got a little chopped shallot. Isn't that pretty? The garnish of its namesake, which is also edible and beautiful. Ladies and gentlemen, there it is. That is chili con carne. Folks, it's done. Man, that is good. I like the cheese, a little bit of sour cream, and that will knock the edge off of some of the heat. Is it real super spicy? No, it really isn't. It's not as hot as a jalapeno, okay? Not as hot as a jalapeno, but it is spicy. It lets you know it's there. It's not going to burn your mouth into the ground though. It's very tasty and good. The chilies, you taste every one of them. A fruitiness from that guajillo, the woody smoked flavor of the chipotle, and the deep tones of that pasilla chili. It all comes through. It is delicious, folks, and this is a recipe I really recommend that you try. If you haven't ever made a chili con carne like this, it's well worth your time. I'm looking forward to enjoying every bit of this. Folks, thank you for watching. If you would, please subscribe to Texas Cooking Today. If you haven't taken a look at the channel, do so. There are a lot of recipes there, a lot of good food. If you would also, please take a look at my Patreon page. That is patreon.com. Oh, hold it. Here it is. That's patreon.com Stuart Trotter. Thank you very much for taking a look at that. It's very helpful to me. It helps with the photography business as well as this YouTube business, and I do appreciate what you do for me. Thank you again for watching this show. Folks, enjoy your chili con carne. I most certainly will.